Order online at picassospizza.net.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports Podcast, where we are here to pay the bills. Jake Micah, joined by Mike Bundt. It is May 20th, 2025. Tomorrow is Josh Allen's birthday. Today, we're breaking down the schedule, Mike. We have a schedule. This is exciting. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We have an interesting schedule. We'll give our takeaways from that today. Go game by game with our first official predictions of this year. And I'll tell you this, I have not put that much thought into it, which makes this a fun one because I love the gut reaction, schedule picking more than I do the put minutes and days of thought into each game. So this will be a fun show. And then breaking down some rumors and then a little bit of the NFL rules that are being discussed this week.
Absolutely. Let's jump in right there at the top here and let's get through some of those rules because I really wanted to talk about the playoff changes being proposed, Mike. So, as I understand it, as I'm looking at it here, the rule being proposed, I believe this is by the Lions proposing this rule to the change of the playoffs, that basically eliminates a home fee, guaranteed home game if you win your division. You will still make the playoffs if you win your division. You'll guarantee a spot. But now there will the beast quake of Marshawn Lynch's fame would not happen ever again. No 7-9 team would be hosting a playoff game ever again. They would make the playoffs, but they would sneak in just like every other sport. I guess really just basketball at this point, right? Because baseball kind of is all set up in their weird wild card. Baseball and hockey would be the similar setup. And the NFL and NBA would essentially have the same setup with one less playoff team being in the NFL and you getting that bye there. And then the big thing being the key difference from the NBA playoff setup would be that the NFL would be reseeding as the playoffs go on. So if you are that 7 seed, somehow breaks through and beats the 2 seed, well, they're going to have to go then play, the number 1 seed who's been on a bye. So that path, if you're a wild card team now, all of a sudden, like, in my opinion, my first reaction is the NFL is trying to eliminate as many wild card Super Bowl contenders as they can. They've seen this happen honestly, it's been since I've watched football. Every year we talk huge about the top 2 contenders back when there were only 6 playoff teams. Now we talk about the number 1 bye. And every time that first weekend, you'd see a 2 seed or a 1 seed go down that was on a bye early. And there'd be a surprise team in the conference championships, usually a 5 or a 6 seed. And you'd be like, how did we get here? Like, they were not supposed to be here. And sometimes those teams are really good. Hence why they're looking to reseed and put those teams at the top of the conference where they belong record-wise. So it seems to me the NFL is looking to preserve the best possible matchups for the championship games. They want, if the Bills and Chiefs are the 1 and 2 seed, they want that to be Bills and Chiefs, and they want it to be the easiest possible path there that they can provide. Would you agree with that assessment of this rule? And personally, how do you feel about it? And then I'll share how I actually feel about it, I guess, after. But what were your reactions to that, Mike?
Yeah, it's something that in the past, if you would have asked me about this, I would have been in favor of this. I like the comment by Steve Noble. You just had it up for a second there. Not sure how I feel about this. If they do this, they might as well not even have divisions. If we're really talking about the basis of divisions, they really just started back in the day to have geographic proximity to make things easier for scheduling, travel, and stuff like that. In a modern day professional sports league, you really don't need to have divisions. They more so only exist because we have tradition, history, and those type of things are hard to say goodbye to. If you really wanted to have just the most fair NFL, you just have the 2 conferences and you just play everybody in your conference, and then you leave it at that and then go to the playoffs. But obviously that's never going to happen because you want to have everybody play all the different teams in the league. So they mix it all up. There's good things and there's bad things about this. The good thing is, let's be real. If you're a 9-8 division winner, you shouldn't be hosting an 11-6 wild card team. You're not better than them. You didn't do anything special to deserve that. at the same point, it kind of de-incentivizes the point of winning the division if the reward is just sneaking into the playoffs. It really makes the whole winning the division not really much of an award. You don't get a home game, which financially that was a big incentive back in the day. AJ Sabalsi commenting, yes, you should. Division winners should host. And that's going to be kind of the debate. What is the purpose of having divisions, and what you gain from being in the division, winning it, if you're going to still play on the road? At the end of the day, there probably could be changes to the NFL playoff format and how they do things, but it's been the most successful league in North America, and you're going to have most people say, why fix something that's not broken? And it's hard to really argue with that point. And then you also have the question, well, say you are the 5 seed, or say you're the 4 seed as a division winner, and you're going on the road to take on a 5 seed, but then there's ways this could create inequity, depending on, say there's one division winner that is going on the road, then somebody else isn't capitalizing it. There's a lot of ways this could create some issues. Now, the reseeding at the end of every round, that makes sense to me. That's something that always should be part of professional sports. It's weird that the NBA doesn't do that, where you could have a 6 versus 7 in a second round. But yeah, overall, I'm indifferent. I could really go either way on this.
So let's talk about this, because I want to get into some minutia of scheduling, because one of my favorite sports nerd things is how they like decide these schedules and all these things, and everything you guys are all saying in the comments here. Steve mentioning they might as well do away with divisions. AJ saying division winners should host and that everybody has to deal with it. How would they go about this scheduling without divisions? Listen, if they do this, the divisions are the only reason the divisions exist is to have some kind of scheduling construct, because I can't imagine if you guys listen to Mike North, who's on, I think he does the podcast with Sal and Matt Beauvais every year talking about the scheduling. Highly recommend. If you hear the different machinations that they have to go through to make these schedules, and then imagine them just completely blowing up the process of it. I can't imagine them wanting to do that with how tedious this process is, and just how steeped in nostalgia the NFL always will be. But that's effectively what would happen, because if you look at my one of my favorite sports, I love it just as much as the NFL, the NBA. The NBA's divisions, the division winner of the Southeast was a 7 seed. Like they were in the play-in. It didn't do anything for them to win that division. It only exists for scheduling purposes at this point. The league might as well be, honestly, there's a push. If you're not an NBA fan, there's a push. It's not like the most popular. It's not a majority of fans, but for them to just reseed 1 through 16, to just do the playoffs without any divisions, without any conferences. Now that's a radical idea. If you could think about with the NFL, imagine if they just threw the NFC and AFC all together into one pot and then did a tournament out of that. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about this. I'm in kind of an agreement with AJ that I don't want to get rid of the historical precedent here unless you're going to blow up the whole system. So if it's going to just be a half-ass thing where we're keeping the divisions all the same, the traditional division setup that we have now, and the only thing, and we're changing how the playoff structure works, and the divisions really don't have a difference in where you get the record, then division games just don't matter as much to me anymore. Like, because like the type, like getting into the playoff for bad teams trying to get in the playoffs, yes, winning your division could be good. For like you're saying, like a contender like the Bills, A, it could just screw up who you end up playing in one of these top rounds, and B, you're going to be a top seed no matter what. So, but I like some about all this. Go ahead.
You have two conflicting interests here.
Yes.
Do you want to have the best teams win championships, or do you want to have it be an entertaining product in which anything is possible and you could have randomness and parity? You can't really have both of them at the same time unless you come up with a perfect system. But like, let's be real, like 32 team league, if you had 16 teams make the playoffs and you did 1 through 16, 2 versus 15, and so forth, you're probably going to have the best teams advancing each round, and you'll probably get to great teams winning every single year, which most of the time does happen in a sport like football or a sport like basketball. This ain't baseball or hockey where there's a lot of randomness. Baseball where you have different starting pitchers and maybe you have one pitcher with an off day, or hockey where a bounce of a puck or a forecheck or something random can really make a big difference in a series. But if we're being real, like division winners, you're rewarding a team with a 3 or 4 seed that might not be deserving of being a 3 or 4 seed. If you go 9-8 and you win a division, you get a 4 seed, you got a better chance at making a run than a team that's a 5 seed that might be 12-5. So it's conflicting interests, and that's what I struggle with, because it's not. You want to always think in football, there's years where you want to believe your team can make a run or make the playoffs or do something, even when they're not good. And you don't want to feel like, oh, this is pointless. It's just going to be so-and-so in making the AFC Championship or so-and-so getting to the Super Bowl. But I always kind of struggle with stuff like that, because if you had too much randomness, that just means that you have champions that don't deserve to be champions. And you give – so like you want a system that's going to reward the best teams at a high percentage, but not do so at a rate that makes it too predictable. And then when you're talking about sports in that manner, you're really not talking about what's happening on the field or in the stadium or arena. You're really just talking more like a math equation and how many times you simulate something, what percentage something is going to result a certain way. And that's what a big problem I have with sports right now. It's gotten so mathematical that I don't even know if sports are really as fun as what they used to be, because I think a lot of it is just predicted by numbers. I know this is all crazy talk right now.
Mike, this is no. This is the space I love for us to operate in May 20th of the off season, because this is the time that we can have these types of philosophical sports discussions. Mike, I completely agree with everything you're saying, that this is all about what they want the sport to be and how they want their champions to be decided and how they want to define their history. That's why I think this can't just be flippantly decided. You have to, if you're going to make this decision, it has to be done with extreme care and it has to be done decisively. So we're not making a change to the playoff format and then 4 years later making another alteration because that one didn't work. And then those 4 years all of a sudden look really weird in the history of the sport. And I'm very, very, very adamant about that. I think that that's the only worry for me. If they don't do that, if they do this, you have to just do it, and you have to get rid of divisions and just do conferences. And how they do the scheduling, they can figure it out. You can do protected rivalries. You can just have them. There's a way that you can alternate the schedule completely. There's different, again, math equations that you can figure it out. I think you're absolutely right in the fact that the sports, all professional sports right now are grappling with what kind of champions they want and what kind of product they want to put out for their playoff product. Look at the NHL. NHL wants parity. The NBA, for the NBA's entire history, has been dominated by, and I thought Bundt, I thought you froze and it was true. Okay. So I'm saying that the sports are really reckoning with what they want. The NHL picked full-on parity. They're like, we just want divisional rivalries to get huge viewership in the beginning, and then whoever gets through, we don't really care. Hopefully it's a team in a big market, and then we'll be happy. The NBA, for its entire history, its champions have been dynasties. The story of the NBA has been, there is a team on top, and they are going to take over. Go back through all the history: the Celtics, the Lakers, the Bulls in the 90s, the Spurs and Lakers in the 2000s, the Heat, LeBron, the Warriors. That's 50 years of NBA history. I just said that 7 teams who have all won. And look what's happened since 2019 and what's going to happen again this year. This year, we're basically going to have a brand new champion besides the Knicks, who haven't won in 50 years. And there's been new champions every year the last 4 years. They change. And you want to know what, Matt or Mike? I don't know why I called you Matt right now. You want to know what, Mike? That's how excited I am, because you made a great point about how the sports are professional sports are dictating these champions. The NBA put new CBA rules, and they effectively put a hard cap in. Whenever you hear the second apron, it's effectively a hard cap. You effectively can't team build. The team building, the superstar, the dream team era, the big three era of the NBA is gone because the owners just decided to kill it. They just decided to change the rules and change the spending, and it changed the course of NBA history. So that's what this rule would do effectively in one way or another. However, if they ever alter the playoffs in some kind of dramatic way, it's not just changing the result by 1 year. It's changing the course of the sport and the NFL history itself. And they have to take that very seriously, because you can't just haphazardly make those decisions. So I agree. What sport do you want to be? I think you should be the sport. If you're talking about what we think it should be, I think it should be the sport of what the reason I love the NBA. And listen, hey, we're talking about the NBA as a comparison. Listen, the NFL is trying to be the NBA. That's what this rule is trying to do. That is the whole point of this comparison. Look at the two playoff formats. So get out of here if you don't understand.
Oh no, Pat, he's a good one. Pat's a good guy.
I listen. I'm not there, but I have a point to this whole thing.
You're right.
It's the same playoff format, and if the NFL wants to be a legacy sport where the Chiefs are going to continue to be a dynasty, or the Bills are going to become a dynasty and win 3 or 4 Super Bowls, or do all these things again, they need to eliminate the parity in the sport. This is the best way to do it, by reseeding and by getting the best teams to the top. If that's what they think it's going to do, that's what this show. And I don't know if this is the sport deciding this. This is the Lions wanting to do it, but that's the kind of thing that this move would do. That's the kind of thing that this kind of
think the NFL
change could make. I don't think the NFL cares. No.
I think the Lions want to win a Super Bowl, and they realize they're going to be great for us for many years to come, and that they want rules that are going to be favorable to them advancing in the playoffs. So I think that's more of what the Lions are trying to secure right there. I don't think it's an NFL-wide thing. Now, let's be real. Like in the NFL, like the Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls in the last 6 years, and outside of that, it's the Eagles have won 2 since 2018. So we are, even though we say like there's parity and they're trying to have the great teams win, like the great teams are winning most of the time.
Or they're hanging around at least. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that you're not really seeing random lower seeded teams really making massive runs. Now the Commanders did upset the Lions last year. Maybe that upset them a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's tough. It's a delicate balance. I think we can all agree that NHL has one of the worst formats. We can all criticize the NBA format with things, and all these leagues have kind of had weird things. It's weird because I'll put it like this: in a sport like hockey and NBA, where you have 82 games, I think a 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, if you're going to have 2 conferences, it's necessary because you're playing 82 games. And at the end of the day, when you're playing that much volume,
that's a great point.
You need to have something that rewards the teams in the regular season. So I think the NHL format is ridiculous because it does the opposite. And a league that should reward something like that. And that also plays into a reason why Toronto sucks in the playoffs too. But that's a story for another day. And then in the NFL, there is a lot of randomness. In let's be real, like your schedule, what teams you play, what division you play in, what division your division plays in, like as far as cross-conference matchups, divisional matchups in your own conference. Like those all impact your record at the end of the day. So maybe there should be a little bit more randomness in the NFL to account for the fact that there's more randomness in your record on a yearly basis. While you want to see less randomness in baseball, you want to see less randomness in the NBA and NHL because the bigger game sample size should have more of an impact on what you are. So I don't like in baseball when you have a team that wins 110 games and they're losing in the first round because it kind of makes that whole season mean like nothing. While football, there is a little bit of other factors that are included that people don't want to admit. But I guess the last rule we should talk about, because this divisional talk, this playoff talk, we could honestly look at it 5 million different ways, and we could go a lot of different viewpoints on it. The tush push is still a topic of conversation. I don't know if there's other rule changes that you wanted to discuss, but I'll let you take it over.
The tush push was really the big thing here that I just wanted to mention, that we're getting the vote tomorrow, so I will see where the league's at with it at this point. What do you think is going to happen? That's really all I wanted to ask. I wanted to see if you had any sense.
I'll let you.
Where do I stand? I think they're getting rid of it. I think at this point that I think that we talked about it at length a couple weeks ago. I don't remember when that was, but I just feel like they're tired of it and they don't want to deal with it anymore. And the team has been very good and has used it effectively. And is it a good reason to get rid of the play? Probably not. But hey, NFL change every year, every single year. You watch a game week 1, they will tell you, the announcers are lined up with message points of what the competition committee told you they're emphasizing this year. They materialistically change the game of football in front of your eyes every year. You're just not listening. So this would just be another one of those things, in my opinion. Like, I think the league does this every year. They change it, and it changes how the game's played throughout the whole season. And some people pick up on it and some people don't. This one would just be more popular because the name has a funny name. The play has a funny name, and it works 100% of the time. But these changes happen every year in this competition committee. And I think it's funny that people are like singling out, like, it's the McDermott thing and everything else. Like, oh my God, you guys used it all the time. Like, the competition committee is unbiased.
Yeah,
it's believe they're actually unbiased or not. They're not doing it for the teams.
Yeah, it's not one team. You need way more than that to get rules passed. I love it. So like something could happen to the Bills with overtime. They lose to Kansas City, and then the Bills change the playoff overtime rules. No, the league changed the NFL overtime rules. And there was other teams that felt the same way about it and saw the Bills get screwed over, and they're like, yeah, I don't want that to happen to me in the playoffs if I get to this situation. And the tush push, this is the part about sports that, like, and we should honestly have a show about it one day, maybe about all the sports. And this is just where my mind goes. Let's be real. When we talk about sports, most people just look at it for fun. It's entertainment. But there's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of analytics. And sports have become a math equation for people. The shift in baseball, how it dictates batting averages. Now it's outlawed. Why? Because teams got too good at it, and they figured out the game. And basically, it was a cheat code. And what happens in sports is when something becomes too successful, the leagues like to get rid of those things because there's almost no answer to it. And we're conditioned as humans and fans to be like, oh, the tush push, come up with an answer and stop it. Well, what if this is NFL teams saying, like, we either don't have those answers or we really don't think there is a legitimate answer to it. And fans will be like, you just hate the Philadelphia Eagles because they're so good at this. Like, credit to them. They came up with something that was revolutionary, that changed the game. But that's also the reason why there's many teams that are like, this can't continue. And there's going to be a lot of different sides to it. And you don't want every little thing in sports to be like, well, just because they're successful, that we just get rid of it. Because maybe there are other things that teams convert at a high rate that there are answers to. The problem with the tush push really comes down to this. It has like a 95+% success rate, which is an insane rate. There is possibilities of it being a safety related issue. The funny thing is when McDermott's against it, people are like, but Josh Allen does the tush push all the time. We don't know if he's against it because it's hurtful for the quarterback. It could be as much for the defenders going up against it. It might have nothing to do with running it. There's been players that have talked about it having a toll on them. And let's be real. The only way you can really stop the tush push is by loading up with massive men in the middle of your field. Well, on 4th and inches at midfield, what are you going to do in that situation? Then another team, they could go opposite the tush push and then fake it and then get a big play another way. There's almost no strategic way of defending the tush push that won't put you at a weakness in some other scenario. And that's why the league doesn't like it.
Think of it like they don't let you pass it. They don't let you pass the ball twice on a play forward. It's going to be the same thing as that. Like, it's not like they haven't outlawed things like this.
There's other issues with alignment. There's things not getting called that it leads to. There's false starts not getting called. There's motion issues. There's so many. Not motion issues, but there's defensive issues. People jumping the snaps, and we saw how basically teams have just given up. In the one playoff game, I think Washington committed like 3 straight offsides penalties trying to stop Philly, and it takes the fun out of the game. And if we're really being honest about sports, when half of these sports that we watch were created, they were just forms of entertainment 100 plus years ago that didn't really have a ton of thought and didn't really think out stuff like forward passes and tush pushes. And games evolved throughout the years. Rule changes then come into equation as answers to some of the problems that would pop up. And now we have something that a lot of teams think is a problem, and they're just trying to solve it. And some people aren't going to like it. They're going to say it goes against what football is about, but that's what happens here. The 3-point shot didn't exist in basketball until the 80s. Now it's part of the game. Now we're starting to see problems as a result of it. There'll probably be another answer to that in basketball. Hockey, goalie equipment has changed sizes. People have talked about, do we make the nets bigger? Every sport is going to have issues in it. And if sports stay stagnant and they're just like, well, this is the way it always has been, that's how your sport eventually just dies, because it gets figured out and it's not entertaining anymore. So my thought is, I don't care what happens with the tush push, but there is a lot of reasons to move on from it from a purely entertainment and football aspect.
Yep. I think we're pretty much in alignment there. So that's enough on the rule changes, Mike. Let's get into some Bills talk, as we've got a schedule now, Mike. So the schedule came out last Wednesday night, and before we get into it with our fancy graphic we have ready here to look over the schedule, what were your first, and this is not about not Bills yet, but just how do you feel about the schedule release in the big year of 2025? What are your thoughts on the schedule release?
So I don't know. It's a schedule to me. I used to get so excited about schedule release to see if they were going to get primetime games. When I was a kid, it'd be like, oh my God, could they get a Monday night game? Like maybe we'll play the Patriots or the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. And it'd be so exciting to me because they sucked my entire childhood. Well, not childhood, teenage years. They went to Super Bowls in my childhood. But now it's kind of boring to me. Like you hear Mike North on with Beauvais and Sal Capaccio every year. And every year he's talking them up, and it's cool. Like the first couple years, it was great. Like, 5 primetime games, Thursday night opener in LA, Thanksgiving 3 out of 4 years. Like that got the blood going, because you're like, I've never seen this. I can't believe the Bills are getting this platform. But now you hear them this year talk, and you're thinking you're going to get all these holiday games like Christmas and Thanksgiving evening, and you get none of them. And it kind of just feels like, okay, what special games did you give me this year? You didn't give me anything special. You just gave me what I expected. I know we're going to get a handful of Sunday night games, that we're going to play a Monday night game, that you're going to give me a Thursday night game, and that we're going to play a bunch of 425 games. Like that doesn't do anything special for me. Cleveland and Pittsburgh on the road in late November and December. That's not exciting. Those are Bills Mafia takeover opportunities. Now they're going to be cold 20-degree games. That's not fun for me. And you look at the schedule. We hear about these 425 games being such a commodity from Mike North when he's talking to Beauvais and Capaccio, saying, well, you know what? You got 5 primetime games, but these 425 games are basically primetime games because they get the same viewers and they're the game of the week on Fox. And like, cool, like that's awesome. But if those games are really that special, then why did Detroit, Kansas City, and Dallas both get Thanksgiving and Christmas? Like, you don't hear anybody talking about Kansas City being like, yeah, they got a lot of 425 games. No, the talk is they got Christmas and Thanksgiving. Detroit, Christmas and Thanksgiving. Dallas, Christmas and Thanksgiving. Philadelphia, Black Friday and other big games. if the Bills' schedule was supposed to be exciting this year, we already know the opponents. We already know where they're playing home and away. No international games, which I'm actually thankful for. There's nothing exciting about this. Now, it's like cool, like primetime games. That's the expectation as long as Josh Allen's the quarterback. Now, if we go through each game by game, there's matchups I'm excited for. There's going to be storylines that develop throughout the season. But from a purely schedule release standpoint, I don't need to hear from Mike North again about how the Bills are going to be on primetime because we're going to have the same generic conversation for the next 10 years.
I'm complete agree. I think we're past it. I couldn't say it better. I was the same way, always looking forward to the schedule, always hoping for just the little pebbles of a Thursday night game, maybe a Monday night game here. Monday night. They gave me Monday night against the Browns on my birthday. That was a great memory, losing to the Browns on a walk-off kick. But yeah, now it's not the same. And yeah, this isn't an exciting. Maybe he meant exciting because it's not exciting for Bills fans, because he knew Bills fans were tired of the primetime chaos, especially.
Oh, they want 1 o'clock games. Okay, you got me 7 1 o'clock games this year. Great. I don't care.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, there's nothing. It's not. Honestly, what I like about this schedule, just from a purely, if we're looking at it from like a entertainment standpoint, is that I think that they are loaded up with some really fun home primetime games here, where they could have been, they could have went with the Eagles or the big ones. I think the division matchups are way more fun to do in the prime time because they're expensive games as it is for people. So I'm sorry, like I know that like the division, I know that it wouldn't, I would hate to see people priced out of the Eagles game or the Bengals game or all the or the Chiefs, and the Chiefs game is going to be crazy anyways. But if you put it at night, it's going to be a couple extra $100 too. So I think that it's like maybe in that way, like I like the schedule the way it lined up, because I don't think, besides the first and last game, which of course were going to be crazy amounts of money, and I like that they did those week 1 and week 18 for Bills fans as well. I think they spread out the wealth in a way that fans can at least hope to go to a game and to be able to afford it. You know what I mean? Where it's not like, oh my gosh, we put the Bills in 6 home primetime games and every ticket's going to be $800 and up, and people can't go to, because listen, I'm, as someone who doesn't live in the area, who has to plan, like the schedule release is more important for me than it is for you, who lives around the corner, basically, because I have to plan for at least the trips to know when. Like I'm still gonna, it doesn't really matter when, like I know I'm gonna be able to make some time there, so it's not like an end all be all, but it's nice to be able to start, sending some texts, and like I, send a couple texts to friends like, hey, I'll be in town for this one, blah blah blah, whatever. But I just think that with this last season and people specifically looking for opportunities, there's a lot of good games where, and the way that they spread it out, you can go, there's like games each month, and a lot of the games earlier in the season too. So you're not sending people to the Ralph in inclement weather to go see it for the last time. I just like the way they treated the Bills for the last season at the stadium, because they could have pimped us out. They could have just been like, they could have used us for nostalgia bait all year and it would have been a pain in the ass. And instead, I think they did the opposite, honestly. And maybe that's what the Bills wanted out of it.
Yeah, if you're talking like for the average fan, like 4 out of the first, it's like 4 of the first 5 at home. That's awesome. Like a lot of September warm weather games. So a lot of opportunities for fans to enjoy good weather games at the stadium in its final year. You end the last 2 at home, an opportunity for some people to go out at Highmark Stadium and enjoy it one last time. So yeah, those are good things. You got a variety of home games, 2 Sunday night, a Thursday night. So there's going to be a lot of fun moments and memories created at Highmark Stadium in its final season. And with the way the schedule starts out, you're going to have a chance to go 6-1 and 7-0 off the bat. So all that.
All right.
And we brought up the point too from Steve Noble. Other than the Baltimore game, we're blessed to get through these suspensions. Yeah, that's gonna the way the schedule's set up. It's gonna definitely help out to be playing those teams the first 6 weeks of the season. I will tell you one thing though. I feel bad saying this, but it's just going to be a truth going forward. This isn't really about the schedule this year. I hope Bills fans realize that once that new stadium is built, it's going to be basically just season ticket holders there.
Yep.
The price of the season ticket holders are going to be paying way more than they've ever paid for tickets before. The brokers are basically not going to be in that building. So many of the secondary tickets are sold by people that buy tickets in bulk that are brokers. You used to be able to go to Bills games for cheap, and then they got Josh Allen, they got really expensive. You're going to go from a 71,000 seat stadium to a 63,000 seat stadium. So you're reducing capacity. You're increasing the ticket prices by a ton. People are getting PSLs, so they're not going to sell their season tickets anymore because they're investing so much in their season tickets to begin with. I think once that new stadium comes out, it's going to be 3 years before you're going to see tickets less than $250 to $300 a seat per game. And it's people better enjoy the team this year that are secondary market people, non-season ticket holder members, because the prices are going to be so astronomical, not for season ticket holders, but to secondary ticket people, that it's going to be very hard for most people outside of season ticket holders to afford games. Because as much as the season tickets are going up, it's mostly from a PSL perspective that they'll be financing it. But if you're going from paying $1,000 a seat or something like that to paying $2,000 a seat or $2,500 a seat, you spread that cost over 10 games. You're not talking about $100 a game ticket to a $200 a game ticket. They're not selling those tickets on resale markets for less than that.
Yep.
Mike,
the perfect example.
This is the last year that tickets are going to be affordable for Bills fans for the next 5 years.
And I can give a real life example here in Chicago. Soldier Field is a smaller place, and they're not a good team. And bro, you're not paying less than $100 to get in that building unless it's like December 28th and it's like 0 degrees outside. And it's most likely going to be upwards of 150, 200. And that's a bad football team. Like, and it's a hard stadium to get to, and it's not a good tailgate. Like,
everybody always asks.
You're right. Like, you're not trying to like scare people or anything. It's reality. Like that. Like, this new stadium is a new world of existence for Bills fans.
The Bills picked the capacity specifically in mind because they want to basically have it be a season ticket holder based stadium going forward. And they're also trying to change some of the environment outside of the stadium as well. So we'll see how crowds differ in the upcoming years versus how things have always been there. But let's get to the fun part. Jake, I don't know how you want to do this. I don't know if you want to do your whole schedule first or one at a time. I think both of us doing this together. Let's go week by week. You can make your pick. I make my pick. Then maybe I go my pick, your pick, and we can tally this together and see how close we are at the end of the year. Because you know what I love about this when you pick the Bills like this is we all have a number in our head that we think is realistic for the Bills. But once you start picking these game by game, those numbers they're thrown out the window. And then you have to then start picking games opposite of what you think just to get to your number. And it creates craziness. So I'm looking forward to how you do this. I don't know if you put thought in it or not. I've put 0.
I'm the same way as you. This is like the 4th time I've looked at the schedule since last Wednesday. So
I'm looking forward to this. I have no idea. I know the number in my head I want to get to, so I don't look too biased and I don't look like a super fan, but I also feel good about the team. I have a number in my head where I feel like if you could pick this number every single year with the Bills and you'd be within one game in the win-loss column,
I know where you're at.
85% of the season. So, but they never actually go that record. So that, but I'll get you started with the Baltimore game because I don't want to depress people.
I ain't gonna be accused of being biased today. I got the Baltimore Ravens winning week 1.
Dude.
Yeah. Listen, there's gonna be some L's on this schedule, and I'd rather get the undefeated season talk out of the way right away. So let's start 0-1, and then we'll have some fun. but I think they lose to Baltimore.
I
think it's a classic. And I have a lot of sports philosophies, and I'm going to put pen to paper on these so people can reference them if they need to try to check me on this. One of them is the revenge game. I fully believe in the revenge game. So I'm going revenge game Ravens week 1.
So it's funny. The Bills are favored in every regular season game.
Isn't that nuts?
That is nuts. And I don't know if I like that or not. I don't necessarily love it, to be honest with you. You did what I was going to do. So I was hoping you were going to pick a win. This Ravens game means a lot to Baltimore. Yep. They're pissed off that they lost in the playoffs. They think they're better than the Bills. The Ravens believe that they're better than the Bills. If you listen to the national media, they are better than the Bills, and the Bills got lucky to hold on. If we're being realistic, the Ravens last year probably were a higher upside team than Buffalo, a higher ceiling team. But the problem with the Ravens is that they didn't always play to that ceiling. And a lot of times they had a lower floor than Buffalo overall. Battle the last 2 MVPs. Even if Ravens fans don't believe that Josh Allen truly deserved it, I don't think Lamar Jackson deserved it 2 years ago, but you don't see me going crazy and yelling insults at Ravens fans about that. But I guess Baltimore fans think that's okay to do to Bills fans. Either way, even if you flip both seasons, I think both of them deserved one of the MVP awards, so I think it evened itself out. I think this is a game Bills Mafia is going to be pumped for. It's going to be a raucous Highmark Stadium. I'm a little bit nervous. I think the Ravens are going to win a close one. I'm going to say we're 0-1 after 1 week. I'll start week 2 against the Jets on the road, the first road contest of the season. I'm not going to say the first true road contest of the season because I don't think this is really even going to be that much of a pro Jets crowd anyway. I think the Bills are going to have a lot of fans there, and I think they're going to give the Jets some whoop ass with Justin Fields starting for the Jets, Jets, and I have the Bills getting to 1-1.
We have to go look back at this to check it out. But I feel like the last couple years, and I know it happened last year, maybe 2 years ago. See, I'm not even following, but I feel like week 2, week 3, the Bills in the recent Josh Allen years, just blow somebody out like 38-3, whether it be the Titans, the Commanders a couple years ago. I feel like this is that game. I feel like Justin Fields will be in hell with Sean McDermott, and the Bills will dominate. So 1-1.
Okay, we'll let you pick Thursday night, week 3 at home against the Miami Dolphins. 2 primetime games to start the home slate at Highmark Stadium.
Highmark. So this is where I have some beef with our friend Mike North, who we have given some love here, because this is lazy scheduling to me. They ran this game last year, week 2 on Thursday night. And so now they just shifted a week and shifted to Buffalo and run it back. Same national TV. Like that's why, Mike, we're not as excited about the national TV schedule, because there's no creativity to it. Like we saw Dolphins and Bills on Thursday Night Football in September last year. And that's my beef. Anyways, let's get back to the game. I don't think the Dolphins are going to be very good this year, to be honest. Their defense is atrocious, and they didn't do enough to get better. I don't think their offensive and defensive lines are particularly strong. I think they're going to be pretty bad, to be honest. That's my early prediction. So the Bills are going to dominate. Another blowout win.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about Miami. Now, I did respect Miami the last 3 years. I thought they were actually a pretty solid team, and they had some bad luck with Tua with injuries in the past. It's funny because if we're being real, if Tua didn't have the concussion problems in recent years, the Miami probably makes the playoffs 3 straight years. Maybe they even have a playoff win to show for it, and maybe even a run. The Dolphins have had talent, and when they got Tyreek Hill, I said they were going to have one of the scariest offenses in the NFL. And at that point, a lot of Bills fans were laughing at me. Who's going to throw the ball to him? Well, Tua did, and Tua's actually turned into an above-average quarterback in the NFL despite his noodle arm. So it feels like, though, after everything that's happened, that they are on a downswing. Tyreek Hill is getting older. I'm not going to say he's lost an edge, but maybe more so than that, it feels like the Dolphins offense has been figured out. Not that they don't score a lot of points and go off, but they're basically a speed oriented finesse offense that doesn't have that other the ability to change styles when needed. And the Bills, while they will allow points to Miami, they normally can keep them in check. So I'm with you. At home in Buffalo, I feel pretty confident the Bills are going to roll to 2-1. So let's go to week 4. New Orleans, home, first 1:00 game of the season. Who's going to be the quarterback of the Saints? I don't know. It looks bad for them. Obviously, Derek Carr retired.
Yeah,
They draft a rookie from Louisville. A lot of hype with him. Spencer Rattler, new head coach. This could be a rout. The Saints have not figured things out in recent years. We could probably say this about the first about 4 games in a row here, but I'm highly confident the Bills are not losing to the New Orleans Saints week 4.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say about this. I think the Saints, tough for Derek Carr. If Derek Carr even did play for them this year, I don't think they were going to be very good. So I think the Bills, like I said, rolling. I think September's not, I mean, the division games could be tricky, but if they play like they should, it's looking pretty nice heading into Sunday Night Football at Highmark. 3 out of 4 of the games prime time each Sunday night, getting 2 bites at the apple with the Patriots coming into town. Mike Vrabel, Drake May, Stephon Diggs, big drama division matchup. You know what I think, Mike? And I know that I'm doing this again here, but remember that game? It was like week whatever, 11, 12, and it was Sunday Night Football, Bills, Patriots. Flexed into it. The Patriots are undefeated. It was 2007, and the Bills lost 56-7. Roscoe Parrish.
Patriots 56-7 again.
Roscoe Parrish had the touchdown, by the way. Big deep pass. No, the Bills 56-7. They're going to destroy the Patriots, I think. No, I don't think they're going to destroy the Patriots, but I do think they beat the Patriots on Sunday night and win. Revenge for my childhood.
I remember that game, and I was.
My dad was there. My dad doesn't even go to games like that, but he went with my grandma, who still had her season tickets at the time, and I don't think he's wanted to go back since.
I remember watching that game, thinking Randy Moss is about to get like 7 touchdowns in this game alone, and there's nothing we can do about it. And yeah, bad memories.
They did have the 2 deep shots in the first half to Randy Moss that looked like it was like a child like covering him. I vividly remember seeing the second one. Like, are they really just gonna throw it deep all game? So I do. We it's funny that we've seen a very good Bills team for 7 years, and we still vividly remember this blowout loss to the undefeated Patriots on Sunday Night Football. This is what Bills football does to you people. But what do you think is going to happen this year?
So the Patriots are an interesting team to me. I believe they're on the way up. Now, when I say way up, I'm not saying playoffs, but I think they could be an 8-win team this year.
I agree.
Right, hovering around 500. Drake May showed some potential last year.
Mm-hmm.
Give him a legitimate number 1 receiver on the downside of his career, but a legitimate number 1 receiver, Stephon Diggs. A good coach who knows how to ease him in and protect him early on in his career. A team that will normally be solid defensively. Patriots could keep this close. Now, will they? I'm not going to predict that on Sunday Night Football. What's going to be another crazy atmosphere. 3 out of the first 4 in primetime at Highmark. That's insane to think about. This game is. I'll pick the Bills, but I'm not convinced it's going to be a blowout. But we'll see. My opinion can change by the time we get to that point in the season. So right now we're both at 4-1, and I think most of America would agree with us on that. A lot of Bills fans in America might say even 5-0 if they get past the Ravens on Sunday Night Football to open their season. Interesting game here, week 6. I had a post on Twitter, what's going to be the most difficult game week 2 to week 6? And if New England was on the road, I probably would have said New England. But this game intrigues me. Atlanta is a team that I think most people would say has underperformed in recent years. Probably should have been more competitive in the NFC South. Michael Penix at quarterback, probably not going to have too much success against the Bills defense, but a lot of interesting weapons on the Falcons. Interesting team all around. This is in Atlanta, Monday Night Football. I'm going to say a win, but this might be the toughest game outside of Baltimore in the first 6 weeks of the season heading into Kansas City.
I imagine this game is going to be like a game where the Bills come out and they go 3-and-out, and then Josh throws like the dumbest pick you've ever seen him throw in his life. He probably hadn't thrown a pick for 5 weeks up until that point, and it's going to be like 13-7 Falcons at the half, or like 16-7, and we're going to be like, what the fuck are they doing? This is ridiculous. They can't go into the bye like this, blah, blah, blah. And then the Falcons are going to be like, guys, Bills fans, we're still the Falcons here. And the Bills are going to like come roaring back, and the Falcons are going to like have some hilarious fumble like over Michael Penix's head that turns into a safety that gives the ball back. And the Bills are going to win that way. And it's going to be like the drunk Monday Night Football game of the year. But I think the Bills win.
So, question for you. Should the Bills be upset about having an early bye week in week 7, or is that something that doesn't concern you in the slightest? Are you one that cares about when the bye week is, or do you just look right?
So is 7 considered early?
I would say that's pretty early.
What's the latest?
We're talking October 20th. I wouldn't say it's late. It's definitely not late. I would say
it's not late. No, it's not late.
Yeah.
So I guess in that,
I would say it's on the early side of things still.
I don't mind. I mean, it is what it is to me at this point. Like, it'd be cool if it was later, but if someone's injury is bad or worse, they can get hurt at any time. To me, the bye only pisses me off if it's like week 4 or week 5. I think 6 and 7, I'm okay with it. Guys deserve a break after a month of football. I think after 6 weeks of football, and they're going to lose a day of their bye because they're on Monday night. So yeah, I'm okay with it.
So
I'm okay with the bye.
Do not care at all, is what you're saying.
Basically, yeah.
That's fair. I don't really, honestly, I'm not a football player, so I can't tell you if it's a good or a bad thing. You are more likely to be banged up later in the season.
Later, I'm sure.
And early in the season. But technically, you can get banged up at any time, and something other players are going to benefit. So there's always a benefit versus a benefit that you can get whenever it happens. So you don't know what your health situation is going to be at any given time of the season. So I really don't care over too much, but it really just depends. I
do know that's a good point, because players do, let's say, they prefer the late bye, and so yeah, sure, you'd always want it, but then we're talking about like you can't always have the late bye. Like that's not, some teams going to get screwed if that's the case. So it is like it's just kind of one of those things that it is what it is with me. Sure, players hate it if it's early because they would rather have a vacation when it's cold and shitty in Buffalo in November than early too, like that kind of thing. But competitive wise,
we got some family commenting 17-0 until they prove otherwise. No reason to put any negativity into the universe. I like it. Power positivity. That's a thing. That's people hate on it, but that's a real thing. And then, is this the famous Mike Bundt from Spit and Chicklets? Yeah, your presence of greatness right now. No, that we'll talk about that another time. But that was pretty wild the other night to have that tweet go off, nearly 1 million impressions, and get all the way to Spit and Chicklets. I remember going to bed Sunday night thinking it'd be pretty cool if Paul Bissonnette and Ryan Whitney end up seeing this stat, and somehow it got to them.
They were looking.
And when I saw the clip originally, I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." They brought it up. I too bad they didn't say my name. And then people watched it and they said my name, and I was like, "Holy cow, that's pretty amazing, even for me." Okay.
Shout out the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Shout out Toronto Maple Leafs for making this possible on almost a yearly basis for me. Okay, the big one of the year. Is it even a big one? Like, let's be real. Is it a big one?
Wait, we didn't pick Carolina. Did we pick Carolina?
Oh, God, I skipped.
So
I'm sorry, Caroline.
Carolina?
Now there is some intrigue to this Carolina one. The intrigue is it's late October, but in Charlotte, that's still good golf weather. So trip that Bills Mafia has the ability to take over and get some nice golf in if they get there early enough or stay an extra day or two. So let's not talk about the game. We're both picking wins. But is this a hidden gem of a road trip for Bills Mafia this year?
Yeah, I think this is the one, honestly. I think this is the one you try to carve out, because then the Atlanta one would have been sweet, but Monday night makes it tough. Monday night in the middle of October, this is the one. It's going to be beautiful. Like you said, the golfing's going to be good. A lot of so there's a big Bills Mafia contingent in Charlotte area too. So there will be friendlies all over the place too. And yeah, I think that's going to be a hell of a trip. So, but definitely a win.
All right. So Jake, I'm gonna get us all hyped up right now.
Ooh.
Chiefs, Bills, Week 9. We're talking about one of these two teams has been in the Super Bowl 5 of the last 6 years. Not the Bills, unfortunately.
Nope.
And you're talking about the Bills have won 4 straight in the regular season in this matchup. We have not seen a one-sided regular season matchup like this in recent Bills history against another premier team. Unfortunately, it's the exact opposite in the playoffs. But, I mean, the wins still matter. First question I'm going to have for you is, does this game still matter to you from a Bills standpoint? And then we'll break down the game in a second. We'll talk a little bit about our feelings, win, loss, what the record will be. But do you even care about this game from a Bills perspective after everything that's happened the last 4 or 5 years?
So I do care about it because it's on the Bills schedule and the Bills will be playing, right? Like inherently I care about a Bills game in that regards. But to say that this Bills Chiefs game for 25-26 is going to give me the same butterflies in my stomach that I got leading up to that Sunday night game after the first AFC championship, that feeling, the Arrowhead game, and then just during that electricity of winning that game, absolutely not. This is just it's going to be hyped up. It's going to be a big thing. But for me, I just don't, it's not going to feed me any results. It's not going to give me any information. And what I really want at this point in the season when I'm watching the Bills is I need some stuff to see to help infer what's going to happen in the playoffs. I need to see those positive habits. I need to see I need to not see toxic things and bad habits from a football team. Winning this game clearly doesn't mean anything. And so I'm not going to get hyped up for it more than any other game. These games will be fun. There's a lot of big, flashy matchups on this thing, but I hate to be like the cliche and a football guy here, but I'm really looking at it like just go 1-0, just every week, please. Just go one after another, just stack wins, be playing your best football in December. So no, this is just November football against a good team. It's important because of seeding. Likely, I would like to be the 1 seed for once this year. So from that respect, it'll be important, but that's it. Not from a hype perspective.
So I'm about to say a lot of contradictory things that are gonna
I love it.
Make me seem like a hypocrite. So I don't care about this game this year, but I do care. If you know what I mean. I don't care, meaning if the Bills lose this game, I'm going to say, well, we're winning the Super Bowl this year, because it hasn't mattered every time we won it. Every time we win this game, we're like, yes, we're right there. We're better than the Chiefs. This is going to be the year things are different and we win in the playoffs. And then the Bills end up losing in the playoffs. So I've gotten to the point where it's I don't care if they win this game or not. Now, that said, when they're playing this game, I'm going to want to win. I'm going to want to beat their ass. And I'm going to want to embarrass them. But mentally, even if we did do that, I know it's not going to make a difference. Mm-hmm. All that's going to matter is what happens in January. So I think I've gotten to the point to where regular season really doesn't make much of a difference to me anymore. They've won 5 straight AFC East titles, but yet every year it's Kansas City going to the Super Bowl. The 1 seed is an interesting element to this. If the Bills beat the Ravens, there's a possibility they could be undefeated heading into this Kansas City game. I just posed the question, what is the probability of them being undefeated heading into week 9? And some people are going to have crazy numbers either way. Some people will say 0% they're going to lose to Baltimore. Other people are going to say 90% they're going to beat Baltimore and they're going to go on a run. But realistically, what do you think the probability is that they could be undefeated going into this game? Because they're probably at least an 80+% favorite against the Jets, the Saints, and the Panthers. They're at least a 70% favorite against probably Atlanta, and they're probably a 65+% favorite against Miami and New England. Baltimore, it's probably a 50-50. So if you acknowledge Baltimore is a 50-50 game, that means the highest you could be is 50% chance of being undefeated at this point. And then you do the probability, what's the chance the Bills run off the other 6 games heading into Kansas City? And if you acknowledge each one is 65+% chance you're going to win it, you do the math, and it's like maybe like 20%, 25%. I would say that would line up. I think there is like a 20 to 25% chance the Bills are undefeated if going into this week 9 game. If they beat the Ravens, though, I think that number jumps up to something like 50% chance that they could be undefeated going into week 9.
I'm going a little lower. I'm going to say 10%. I'm going to say 10%.
You hate them.
I do hate them. Yep.
Ravens now going.
I'm just accounting for some variability with the 10%. Listen, I've seen the Bills.
I don't know how Tim's related to you, but he's going to be talking to you.
Listen, I've seen this Bills team lose. This very good Bills team lose some baffling games. So could I see them potentially being 5-2 heading into the KC game because they lost to Baltimore and then lost very stupidly to the Falcons and had 4 turnovers? Yes, I could. Do I think that's likely? No. But I do think I have to factor in variability. So I'm saying 10. But that's only, and it's really just because I think that game week 1 is a bear. I think they did the Bills no favor. If I said they did the Bills favors for this schedule, the one favor that they did not do for them was putting Baltimore week 1 for everything we've kind of talked about with the revenge and just it's not even like the whatever motivation the players have, they're going to hear it from their fans though all summer long now, and especially leading up into those couple weeks of that game. We can't lose to Buffalo to start the year. We can't lose in Buffalo again to start the year. Like that shit. Guys want to act like they don't hear it. They hear it. So that's the one that really scares me for the undefeated purpose. Other than that, I'm worried about that Atlanta game. I'm worried about the Carolina game a little bit, honestly. As a look ahead, Matt, you're coming out of a bye, and I know they're good out of byes, but it's just if this team cares about the KC matchup, and also Carolina, they were frisky a little bit at the end of last year. Bryce Young actually starting to look like a competent quarterback with some real coaching and some development around him. I don't think that team is like just a bottom feeder team like they've been in years past. I'm not saying Carolina is going to win like 10 games this year or anything, but I do think Carolina is a trickier team. They're not like the Saints level bad this year. Like Carolina could be like a 7-win team, and facing that kind of team on the road is a tricky proposition for a team you don't see a lot. That's it.
Okay, we're going to go quick during the second half of the schedule because we're already at 1 hour and 5 minutes, and Jake's probably going to kill me after the show.
I know, we're good. We didn't pick the Chiefs game, though.
Oh, God. What does that mean?
I'm picking them to lose the Chiefs game.
Oh, my goodness. So
6-2.
You know what? I'm gonna say something so people don't hate me. I'm going to pick a loss, but that means I'm picking a win in the playoffs against them because there's no rational – logical reasoning for it, but we're Bills fans, so I'm not going to pretend to care. So right now, through 8 games, we're both at 6-2. And if we're being real, we picked them to win every game they should win, and we picked them to lose in the 2 games they possibly could lose. So this is we're really shitty at this as far as making this entertaining. We're going to be quicker down the stretch. I think I know where you're going to be weeks 10, 11, 12. So I'll just give my picks. I'll let you pick those afterwards. I'm picking a win at Miami. That'll be a Bills Mafia takeover. Week 11 against Tampa. That could be a little interesting. Baker Mayfield has been really solid since going down to the Bucs in Tampa, but I don't think Tampa is good enough to beat the Bills in Buffalo. Shout out to Maniac for being the first one on announcing that contest. Week 12 at Houston. I think the Texans are all right. It'll be interesting to see if CJ Stroud bounces forward from last year. Everybody was anointing him in that top tier. He was not that level of a quarterback in his second year. Did have a little bit of a sophomore slump. Thursday night could be a tough environment. I already picked the Bills to lose to two teams that I think the Bills could win against, but I have them with losses against Baltimore and Kansas City. I don't think they're losing to the Texans. They almost beat the Texans playing one of their worst football games possible last year and still almost came away with the win. So I'm going to pick up another win there. So that gets the Bills, in my mind, to 9-2. What do you have for those three games?
Yes. So the Miami game, like I said earlier, I don't think Miami's very good. So I just think the Bills will handle that matchup this year. So I got a win there. This Mike, this stretch right here, the next these 5 games, 11 through 15. I know we can talk about the flashy matchups outside of it with Baltimore, KC, and Philly. I think this 5-game stretch really will define for me who this Bills team is, because these are all teams who they're not great teams, but they're not pushovers. So how are you going to treat them for 5 weeks? Like, can the Bills show up for 5 straight weeks against good teams that they should beat and just smoke them? Not even just beat them. Like, can they handle these games? Are they going to trip them up in any way? So I'm really looking at that is as I'm analyzing the season, that's the stretch I think that is the most important for what will infer the future of the Bills in the playoffs and going forward. That being said, I think this 11-12 stretch is really tough because Tampa is a good team. Tampa's going to be good this year, and they're a physical team. That's the reason Tampa is so good, in my opinion. They are physical at the offensive and defensive line. That's why they've been able to last into these playoff runs when people don't expect them to, and turn it around to play Houston on a short week after that matchup's going to be tough. But I'm with you. I don't think very highly of this Houston team. The Bills played horrible last year, and I don't think Houston got better. So I actually think that's going to be a tricky game, but I think the Bills also win all 3 of these games, and I think they get through.
Okay, week 13 at Pittsburgh. The only thing interesting about this game is who will be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think both of us believe it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. Does that make this game any more intriguing to you? Probably from a quarterback matchup slightly. It would be more fun to see Aaron Rodgers than Mason Rudolph or some random person in there at quarterback. But does it really change my thought process on who's going to win this game? Not at all. Only way Pittsburgh beats the Bills is if their defense does what it used to do against Josh Allen in the past and confuses him. I think he's way past those days. So I'm picking the Bills. 425. Possible Bills Mafia takeover, depending on how the Steelers are at this point. And I'm going to be honest with you, really disappointed this is a late November game. Would have loved to go to Pittsburgh in October or late September. Kind of disappointed that this game is probably going to be 35 degrees by the time I get tickets for it.
Yeah, I was really hoping. Well, first of all, I don't care what Bills fans and what they want to say. I was hoping this was in Dublin. So that was my hope the whole time. I really wanted to make that trip for Bills Steelers. I'll be in Pittsburgh, though. I'll be part of the Bills Mafia takeover there, drinking some icy lights. But I definitely wish it wasn't at the end of November like you. I'm sure CBS is going to love having their football weather that they can show and Bills Steelers and everything. But I'm not going to love it. But I'm with you. This game, even if it's Aaron Rodgers, the Bills should smoke this team. They're not going to be very good this year, I don't think. And who knows with Aaron? Is Aaron Rodgers a draw? Do we care about Aaron Rodgers at this point? Like, it is what it is. Let's go to the Bengals game here. Home. This is on Fox, Mike. Isn't that?
Yeah, this is weird. So, not to take over. Bills at Bengals, 425 game of the week on Fox. This is my brain is not set to process.
Can't compute.
This is my brain is saying this is Achilles Smith Andy Dalton, Carson Palmer, like any random quarterback versus like Trent Edwards, JP Lossman, Drew Bledsoe, like at 1:00 on CBS
with Gus Johnson.
Gus Johnson and Corey Dillon in the backfield, Antoine Smith for the Bills. And like just my brain cannot process that this is Joe Burrow versus Josh Allen on Fox with Tom Brady
on the call.
Game of the week. Like this is 3 AFC things playing on Fox. Dude, this is weird to me.
Weird vibes. Games against the Bengals have been weird vibes in the past. I guess that's a way to put it. This is an interesting matchup because what do you think of the Cincinnati Bengals? Like, I'm sure Bills fans are looking at this matchup and are like, oh no, that Cincy matchup in December. I think the Bengals are going to suck.
Whoa.
They got no defense. They didn't address their offensive line properly. They decided to pay 2 skill guys on the outside all their money because that has always worked in NFL history. I think the Bengals are destined to be mid in this iteration. So yeah, cool. I'll welcome the what's the record we're at for the Bills here? 9-2 or 10-2. So what? The 6-6 Bengals at this point? Sure, they can come in for the game of the week and lose 38-24. I'm giving a Bills win.
Dude,
I really hate what the Bengals did this offseason. I really do. We'll get into it more in the offseason when we talk about other teams, but I think they catered, they caved, and it's gonna cost them real money and real wins.
I'm kind of the opposite on the Bengals.
Oh.
So I just tweeted from the Pay the Bills account. Are the Bengals the Bills' toughest matchup this season? And you're just like, no,
I don't think so.
They suck. Well,
I wish I saw that. I wish I would have known. That's how good we can do this sometimes. Is that I had no idea.
I'll say this: the Bengals are a wild card to me, and I'm not saying a wild card team. I'm saying they are a wild card. I don't know what the Bengals are. I know that they've been managed horribly in recent years. And that's a big reason why they're not in the same tier as the Bills in Kansas City anymore. Baltimore just took over their spot. But that being said, with Joe Burrow at quarterback, you're always going to have an elite offense. And you have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins, you now have their contract situations taken care of. I could see the Bengals taking a bounce back in the right direction this season. Now, the question is their defense. And will they be able to look a little bit better after a horrible season last year that led to their defensive coordinator leaving? When I look at the Bills' schedule, there's 4 games that stand out to me. Sunday Night Football at home against the Ravens. Week 9 at home against Kansas City. Week 17 at home against the Eagles. And then there is Week 14 versus Cincinnati. I think this is one of their 4 toughest games of the season. I don't know how Baltimore and Cincy will compare this year. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the season the Bengals are one of the toughest games they have the whole year. The question is with Cincy, what are they compared to what the Bills used to struggle with? A lot of what Cincinnati presented to the Bills in the past, they no longer have the ability to do some of that. But what they still have is a dynamic quarterback and passing game. And I don't know if the Bills' defense is going to be able to slow down Joe Burrow. Now, I am biased. I called Joe Burrow's games when he was a sophomore quarterback at Athens High School. I do own a Joe Burrow jersey. I also own a lot of Bills jerseys, way more Bills jerseys than Bengals jerseys. But and I hate this logic and I hate this reasoning because it's flawed and I don't agree with what I'm about to say. But sometimes you need to see a team do something before you can pick them to do something. If the Bills are to play Kansas City in the playoffs tomorrow, they could be the Bills could be 16-1, the Chiefs could be 9-8. I'm probably picking the Chiefs in that game, even if the Chiefs are a 7 seed. And I don't know if I can pick the Bills against the Bengals right now. the last 3 times I've seen the Bills play Cincinnati, it's been ugly. You had obviously the Damar Hamlin Monday night game, which it looked like Cincinnati was on pace to score 40 points in that game. You have the playoff game where they manhandled the Bills, and then you have the Sunday night game where they just completely handled the Bills. They still have the same quarterback. They have the same receivers. They have the same head coach. I'm picking Cincy. I hope the Bills prove me wrong, but I'm picking Cincy. So this is going to be the first difference that we have on the schedule. I'm at 10-3. You're at 11-1. Let's just skip the next 2 games, unless you have a shocker.
Oh no, we're not skipping the next 2 games, buddy.
Okay. I'm gonna let you pick New England and Cleveland, and then I'll make my picks before we get to Philly.
I think they lose in New England. I think that they will lose the game in New England. Mike Vrabel knows how to coach against a Bills and a Sean McDermott team to make it competitive. They did it basically every single time, except that one Monday night blowout that the Bills had at home to start the year. I think you talked about it a little bit for the Patriots. I was saving it to get to here because I knew that I was going to pick them to win this game. I love everything the Patriots did this offseason. If I were given the Patriots blank slate that they were given last offseason, I would have done all the moves they did. Do I think they're perfect players that they spent all their money on? No, but they did it the right way. They spent money on high upside defensive tackle, Milton Williams, offensive lineman. They got serious in the trenches. They got some weapons for their receiver. I love their draft. I just love Mike Vrabel. That's really what it comes down to. I think Mike Vrabel is one of the very best coaches in the NFL. The only reason he lost the job in Tennessee is because of a power struggle with an owner who doesn't know what she's doing, who's going another direction with the franchise, has already gone 2 different directions with the franchise since Vrabel has been gone. And there's been serious instability in that organization, in the front office, since he's been gone. So I think he's pretty vindicated into where that he was the main source, the main ingredient for the winning and the stability and the impressiveness of the Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry Titans. And as much as I hate to say it, and I'll take the ire of Bills fans if I want, this Patriots team's not going away anytime soon. And like you said, they're on the rise. They're not going to be a playoff team this year. They will be next year. Drake May is good. I think Drake May is good. I just think he's really good. And I think the Patriots are now run by a smart person again. And I don't think that and I think they're a good organization and they're willing to spend resources on these things. So I don't think they're going away. And all that doesn't matter really to the grand scheme of things for this week. But I think if that's a team that is desperately playing for a playoff spot in the middle of December, talking about New England, and I also talked about that stretch from week 11 to 15 being grueling for the Bills. And you can even extend that back to week 9 if you want and include KC and Miami in there. It's the end of a really rough stretch of games. I think they just get caught up. It's a physical, hungry New England team who catches them.
So this is where I have a record in mind for where I think the Bills are going to end up. And I'm not on pace to get to that record right now.
Oh.
So meaning I'm above the pace.
Oh, above the pace. Okay.
So
I think I know what record you're going for. So
the issue I'm having in my head right now is, am I really going to pick the Bills to lose every one of their tough games and then pick them to win every one of their other games? Because then I just let's be real. If I pick 13-4 and the Bills wins, the Bills losses are Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincy, and Philadelphia, that might be even more depressing because I'm basically saying they beat everybody except for the 4 teams they might need to beat to get to the Super Bowl. In that moment, I'm like, oh my goodness, this sucks. This is going to be another repeat. So, and there's always some game every year that they lose where you're shocked. And last year, I would probably say the Houston game was that game. You could say New England, but let's be real, we don't count that. They went 13-3 last year. The Baltimore loss was understood. Houston was maybe a little weird. Houston and LA, both good teams, but a little odd with how those went. I could see them losing at New England. I don't know what New England's going to be, if they're going to be playing for something at this point or not. I could see them still in the wild card picture at this point in the season. Cleveland's another interesting situation because I don't think Cleveland's roster is
Who's
horrible,
playing QB?
but their
That's a good
quarterback
question.
situation just is
Who do you
putrid.
think ends up? Who do you think is quarterback in December, Week 16 for Cleveland by that game?
That's tough because
know,
do you think they want to put either rookie in that situation?
I don't. I think Flacco is playing until the wheels fall off. Honestly,
Yeah, I think it has to be Flacco to start the season because Kenny Pickett hasn't given any reason to be optimistic in him. Flacco already had the success 2 years ago, and at least he provides some veteran stability. Deep down, I think the management likes Dylan. What's his last name? Gabriel more than they like Shadur Sanders. That's why they drafted him in the 3rd round versus the 5th round. I think Shadur was more of a owner, get involved. Jimmy Haslam can't help himself. I'll say it's going to be Flacco or Gabriel because I don't think they're going to want to throw Shadur Sanders right into it because if he stinks at that point, how do you even justify giving him another chance later on?
Agreed.
And I guess if he is good, then you get the excitement. But then if you're 5-12 and you have a chance to get a quarterback, do you let that excitement then deter you from getting somebody that is a true upgrade?
Exactly.
I'm being real. If I'm picking New England and Cleveland, I think the Bills are winning both of those games. But I just hate for what this is setting up for my record prediction. So I'm going to just give them both wins. So through 15 games, I'm at 12-3. You're at 12-3. Week 17, Philadelphia, 1 seed potentially on the line for the Bills. If they lose a 4th game, that 13-4 is not always good enough. Sometimes 12-5 is good enough, depending on how other teams go. How do you see the Bills matchup against the defending Super Bowl champs going down?
A lot of people, I was surprised at how many people were upset that this was Week 17. Now, I know that there's some concern that there would be, not a lot to play for, but there's rarely teams sitting people Week 17. I imagine this is going to be the Bills A squad versus the Eagles play A squad. And like you said, probably with 1 seed or very high seeding implications on the line for both teams. And this is honestly a dream Week 17 spot to put. It could be theoretically, the NFL is hoping that the Bills are the 1 seed and the Eagles are the 1 seed, and that this is like the 2 teams like trying to clinch like in this game. They're planning for this game to have the highest of stakes, and I think that's what we should anticipate as well. Listen, the Bills played a sloppy game a couple years ago in Philadelphia. That was not as much as you want to give credit to Philly and their offense for that game early on. The Bills could not get out of their own way, and they still were able to come back, storm back, and really put up a fight and get to overtime there. I think the Bills get it back here. I think Jalen Hurts, by this time in Week 17, I anticipate the Bills defense being not a great unit, but a formidable unit, a unit it's hard to play against. It's a hard day's work. And I think that they are able to mess with Jalen Hurts enough through the air this time around that he was lighting them up. It's not going to happen like that this time. And I just think the Bills offense is able to roll. And this team at home is just so damn good. So I'm picking a win over the Philadelphia Eagles, Week 17.
Jake, I don't even know why we're doing this show. You just agree with almost everything I say. I agree with almost everything you say. We could have cut this in half if we just knew what we were going to do ahead of time. So originally I was going to pick this as a loss, but then for the sake of this, I think it'd be pathetic if I picked 13-4 and had them losing to Baltimore, Kansas City, Bengals, and Philadelphia. So I'm going to change it up. There's no real logical reason for this. I think this is a coin flip game, but playing at home, I don't know if the Eagles are going to repeat everything they did last season. They have a great team. Theoretically, on paper, they're a tough matchup for the Bills, but this being late December in Buffalo, probably 1 seed on the line for the Bills where they're going to need a win. I see Buffalo getting a victory. I see them getting to 13-3, This will probably be their biggest victory of the season against the defending Super Bowl champs in what I'm going to call the Highmark Stadium regular season finale. Because after they win this game, they're 13-3. The 1 seed is clinched, and the Jets game means nothing. I can give them a loss in the Jets game, give Justin Fields a win, just like the Bills lost to, I don't even remember who was playing that quarterback for the Patriots. Was it Joe Milton, the last game of the season?
Yes.
So I'm going to wrap them up at 13-4, 1 seed in the AFC East. And Joey, we appreciate all the comments that you have out here.
Shout out, Joey.
Shout out to you, man. And I agree with a lot of your points that you're mentioning here on the Facebook feed. 13-4 is going to be my pick. What I was going to say going into this was 12-5, because I think if you're 12-5, you have an 85% chance of being within that record between 11-6 and 13-4. So 13-4 is going to be my game by game prediction. 12-5 is going to be my probably more realistic prediction. And if they go 12-5, I think they'll still be in the discussion for possibly getting a 1 seed. It's going to be a hot start to the season. I'm not too fazed by the second half of the schedule. This should be a big year for the Bills. And if it's not, I'm going to be a little concerned. But they have everything they need to really stack up some wins this season.
And that's why I will be picking them to smoke the New York Jets week 18. Mitch Trubisky goes off for like 300 yards passing, and Ray Davis runs for 2 touchdowns, and the backups get it done in a performance a la the well, I don't think it was full backups a couple years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, when the Bills, I think they beat Miami like 56-28 or something. Week 18 at home, didn't matter when they were the 5 seed. I see something similar where just the emotions and everything go through. And I really wanted to pick this team to win 14 or 15 games today. So I've achieved my goal to get the Bills to 14-3, because I think they got to get to 14 to get that 1 seed. And that's the most important thing for me this year. Is I don't care who they win, who they lose to, just get to 14 or 15 and be in that conversation, have a chance to get the 1 seed. And I realized that I picked probably the hardest possible path, even with 14 wins, by losing to Baltimore and Kansas City. But that's all just in mind, to win that game, win the more important one. I'm the same as you. I don't want to be going in. There's no rationale behind it besides I don't want to be going in to the playoffs and have Chiefs fans in my mentions talking about regular season doesn't matter, never matters. Like, I don't need that again. I'd rather just have them chirping me saying we can't win. That's where I want to be. So 14-3, you're at 13-4. But yeah, I think it's safe to say if the Bills don't end up in that range, even the 12-win range, going to be some unhappy campers around the way. But I think it's shaped up to be a historic year. And no matter what, it is going to be a historic year as the end of Highmark, and it's a fun schedule for that. And I like the way you said that. The Eagles game is really the Highmark finale. And you know what? That's a great reason to put it week 17 too, then. To give Highmark one last, real meaningful regular season game, right? Hopefully get some football weather or something, right after the holidays too. That'll be fun. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, I didn't know what our picks were going to be. I thought I was going to end up at 12-5 somehow, because that's perfect middle ground for me. You know what's going to happen? They're going to regress and they're going to go 10-7 this year, because that'd just be
Patriots 12-5.
That's exactly what would happen right when we're finally they're just on the precipice of being great and winning the AFC. The schedule is perfect for them, and then boom, 10-7 in a wild card. But no, I'm going for it. I think this team, they've alternated records the last 4 years. They went actually going back from 2020, what was it? 13-3, 11-6, 13-3, 11-6, 13-4. So history is telling us they're going 11-6 this year, but we're not gonna follow history. We're gonna think that we're smarter than that and go with 13-4 and 14-3. And like, let's be real. The one thing the Bills haven't accomplished in the regular season during the Josh Allen era is getting the 1 seed, and that could absolutely change uh, their chances of making a Super Bowl run. So I think it's possible. A lot of people were scared of the schedule before the offseason. I I don't see a lot of top end teams that can really challenge the Bills. This schedule might have more easy games on it than any schedule they've had in recent memory. And that's a combo of opponents and also what I feel about the Jets and the Dolphins right now and playing the NFC South. So this is all shaping up, Jake. It's going to be an exciting offseason. Obviously, we already have gotten through the draft and free agency. Now it's almost time for mini camp, and then there's a break before training camp, and then next thing you know, we're right back in it, and then another Bills season is here. So enjoy the summer while you can, and then it's time for things to get serious.
Absolutely. So thank you all for tuning in. We paid the bills. Shout out to our sponsor, Picasso's Pizza. Get your Picasso's Pizza anywhere nationwide and in Western New York, picassospizza.net. Yeah, that was a breakdown. We'll put out our results here. I'm sure we'll do it one more time before the season starts once we have a full thing, but we're almost there. It doesn't feel like it, but we'll be talking about training camp before we know it, guys. I mean, this is getting into time. Memorial Day weekend coming up, and then the once the NBA and NHL end, people are just going to be raring and ready to go. And I feel like this season specifically, just the taste in your mouth last year, everybody is like it's been since January. Everybody's been like, all right, let's get to September and it's not going to feel like even when we get to September, I'm going to be like, all right, let's get to January. Let's get this over.
September. I'm saying,
yeah, I know.
February.
Give me the February. Yes.
February.
Well, I've never gotten to February, so I won't. I can't get
that
there.
moment. Like, I don't want like a Bills clutch AFC Championship win. I want like just give me total destruction. We're like it's halftime, we're up by 24, and I'm like we're going to the Super Bowl. Give me something like that. I've only had one Buffalo team in a legitimate championship in my life, and that was the Sabres in the Stanley Cup Finals, and that was a lifetime ago. It feels like so. It would mean so much, and you think about it. Last year was the closest any team has gotten since that point. So all these offseason additions to the defensive line, to different parts of this team, re-signing their own, extending their own. It's all there, man. They have what they need. They just got to go out and do it. And any arguing over what they are, what they aren't, it's pointless. They are good enough to win a Super Bowl. We saw how close they got last year. They just have to do it now. That's all that needs to be done. And I'm kind of minimizing it. Like, that's really difficult to happen. But they just got to do it.
Just get it done. All right. Thank you, everybody. We paid the bills. Have a good night. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next week. Go Bills.